welcome Nedra Glover.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Well, I would just like to say you're such an energetic audience, so I expect that same energy, all the hooting and hollering, please do it. So in 2020, just before Set Boundaries, Find Peace came out, my boundaries were tested, of course, right? I had a situation with a family member where I had to set a really hard boundary. After I set that boundary, they text me, "Have a nice life." I was like, ouch. I wanted you to sleep somewhere else when you came to my house, maybe get a hotel. I didn't know that would end our relationship. And it did. When we talked about that again, they said, well, the reaction was because you set the boundary. And I thought, gosh, I wish they had my book so they can understand that the purpose of the boundary is to stay connected. It's not to end the relationship. It's so we can be in a relationship in a healthy way. Eventually, we got there. But the initial reaction to hearing something that they did not like was, "I'm out of here." Have any of you ever lost an important relationship because of a miscommunication about a boundary, or even someone threatening to leave the relationship? I see one hand. Anyone else? Now I'm going to ask you something very personal, and you can be honest if you want to. Have you ever felt the need to leave a relationship because someone set a boundary with you? Yeah. So it happens on both sides. But here's the thing. Healthy boundaries are a way for us to connect. Who determines what a healthy boundary is? Sometimes it's like, maybe you do, and sometimes it's talking to other people, is figuring out, is this a rule that is punitive? Is this something that could further our relationship? In my situation, what I noticed was we argue a lot when we stay in the same space. So I think what could be healthier is maybe if we don't stay in the same space, we'll enjoy each other. So sometimes that explanation of why we have the boundary can be helpful. But many of us may decide, I don't want to accept your boundary, I will cut you off instead. And when we cut people off, we're saying we're ending a relationship because the rules of engagement should not apply to me. Boundaries do not have to mean endings. They are a continuation in a relationship. The biggest boundary that we often set is the ending, right? Like that's the final boundary. So what are all the other boundaries we've set before we've got to the ending? Not every relationship is going to be perfect. A few weeks ago, I was hosting a retreat, and I was speaking to a woman who was talking about having a relationship with her alcoholic family member. And I said, well, what are your rules for this relationship? Because she was overwhelmed. She wants them to do something about their addiction. And I said, do you answer the phone when they call after a certain time? Because for most people who have drinking issues, it starts at some time in the day. Have you identified that time and maybe said to yourself, I don't need to talk to them after this time? Have you removed alcohol from your gathering so that drinking isn't present? And she's like, no, I haven't done anything. I just keep telling them they need to stop drinking. And I'm like, I think alcoholism is when they can't. So I think if they could control it, they would. They would, yeah. They would definitely do it. But since they can't, without you saying the only alternative is to be done with this relationship. I can't have any relationships with anyone with any addiction. I know for me, that means I have 5 relationships. No, I'm joking. But there, some people, they have things. So how do we show up in relationships with people who are not perfect? For somebody, I'm not perfect. I don't know who that person is in my life, but I'm sure somebody would say that I'm not perfect, right? So how do we create boundaries in our relationships with imperfect people? The boundary is for us to think about. It's not for them to create for themselves. It's for us to think about and for us to know just because there's imperfections, it doesn't mean that the relationship has to end. There can be some middle space in our relationships. There is perfect, and then there's unhealthy and toxic. What we often see online is everyone is putting everybody in the unhealthy toxic. We don't have a lot of gray anymore. It's like, I want it all or I want nothing. And I have a lot of rules, right? Like, I want to be in the bed by 9 p.m. I want to eat at certain restaurants. I want to do this. I want to do that. All these rules we have for ourselves. How does that work in our relationships? I have to be flexible. If I have a friend who wants to hang out till 11, I can't always have my rule. If I have a loved one who needs something, I have to be flexible about my rule. But when we don't have that flexibility, there is no middle ground in our relationships with people. What is toxic? Now everything is toxic, right? Like, people used to come to therapy for real stuff. I mean, really hard stuff. Really hard stuff. Now sometimes I'm like, maybe you could do a group. I'm joking, but, I think sometimes we have taken imperfection and made it toxic. We're not talking about abuse. We're not talking about neglect. We're not talking about addiction. We're talking about a person who's too loud and how that just gets on our nerves, and we need to create some distance. It's like, I think we need to think about this in a different way. Sometimes we have to tolerate people in a different way. So where is our tolerance going in our relationships? Are we being flexible with different people? Not everyone needs the same boundaries. My friends who I choose in this world, many of them have a lot of the same boundaries as me. So I don't have to tell them a lot of the rules or things that I would like, because they also have some of those things. Kids, you may have different boundaries with your kids than you would have with your coworker. Last night, I was out, and my daughter called me about 20 times, back to back. Now, if it was an adult, if it was anybody else, I would have been like, hey, please don't call me more than 3 times unless it's an emergency. But because it's a kid, it's like, flexible boundary. That's my kid. She can call 75 times, and I'm going to text her, and I'm going to respond. So are we being flexible with our boundaries? Because sometimes we are using the same boundary with everyone, and it's not needed. It's not even helpful for the relationship. So customizing your boundaries to fit the person, the situation, is really important. I know a few years ago we had this movement of folks leaving the workforce because they were like, based on, and I got a lot of DMs, based on what my boundaries are, they cannot tell me to be to work at 8 a.m. I'm like, well, their boundary is 8 to 4, right? Like, your boundary, you want to wake up, you want a slow morning. Your boundaries might include you not having a job. So it pays to be flexible with your boundaries sometimes. And as I tell my clients, I want you to be happy at work so you can pay for therapy, right? Really important. Some of our imperfect relationships bring us value. So figuring out how to be in them is important to us. If we have that family member who just will nonstop talk about politics, or if we have that person who is not the best listener, or if we have that person who overshares a bit, our work is to figure out, how do I show up in relationship with this person who I love, and I have a lot of things other than this in common with? There is some value in the relationship. This is my best friend since second grade. This is my father. This is my mother. It's not abusive. It's not toxic, but it's very annoying. What can my boundaries be? Annoying is not toxic. We have taken toxic to, this person is always doing something. That is now the toxic thing. It's just an annoying thing. There are ways that we need to figure out, how do I be in a relationship where maybe I'm not as annoyed? Maybe if I think about this differently, maybe if there's something that I can do to feel less bothered by their behavior. But is the relationship functioning for the two people in the relationship? Social media has distorted what healthy looks like, right? If we look at the family structure now, it is, mom, dad, 2 dogs, or 2 dads and 3 kids, or everybody's dressed alike. And I feel that pressure too. I'll go and I'll look for the family matching outfits. And, there's a lot of pressure for the family to look a particular way. There's a lot of pressure of what fun looks like. There's a lot of pressure of the best way to style a striped shirt. Okay, maybe that's my feet. But there is this idea of, if it is not this, then it's this. When I'm talking to clients and I hear them state a problem that I might think is a problem, I have to remember, it's not a problem to them. It might be a problem for me. And sometimes when we're looking at things on social media, it will highlight things that's not even a problem for us, right? It's like, my partner won't do, it's not even a problem for you. You didn't even have this issue until you looked at this person's post. So noticing when you're looking at things and it's causing you to feel like, oh, I need to make my daughter do this, or my friends need to do that, or my partner needs to do this. It is the effect of what you're seeing. You actually don't have a problem. People are showing their highlight reels, right? When you see the influencer who's on vacation and they have all these wonderful pictures at a resort, trust me, they have spent the entire vacation taking pictures at the resort. I've seen it. I was once eating breakfast and I just saw this girl on a beach and she just kept running back and forth. I meant like 20 times, and somebody was snatching a picture, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's her vacation. What we will see is this cute little clip, and it's like, oh, I had the best vacation ever. It's like, I saw you run across the beach 20 times, right? Maybe it was a good vacation, but it was definitely a busy one. Don't let Instagram dictate what your relationships look like. Not just Instagram, but all the social medias, right? Don't let them dictate what your relationship should look like. Like, you determine that. And a huge part of your work is to figure out, do we need to sleep in the same bed? Is that something we should do in our relationship? Do we need to share our bank accounts? Like, these are conversations that we have with our partners. We have conversations with our friends. We don't look at social media as an indication of what feels good to us. On social media, one of the things I've noticed now is all of the therapy speak, and unfortunately, I've contributed to this. The B word, boundaries, toxic, codependent, it's all over the place. Some of these are not even therapeutic terms, right? Like codependent and toxic, it's not in our DSM, right? It's like not stuff that we really, really use, but it's all over social media. And guess what? People are using it to define other people. this person is toxic. They're a narcissist. And some people are just jerks. They're not actually narcissists. Some things are not boundary issues. Everything is not toxic. Sometimes people are just close and you don't understand it, and you say they're codependent. So misusing these words or even using them to define behaviors is not something that we need to move towards. We can talk about what we see without saying this person is a narcissist. We can, have conversations without all the labeling, because when we take it back to the person, it never goes well. A narcissist never wants to be called a narcissist. A toxic person, hey, you're toxic, and this is what I need you to do. It doesn't go well. So these terms, although they connect in our brains like, oh my gosh, this is why I'm seeing this stuff, maybe some of them do apply, but it's also something we can keep to ourselves and maybe not share and over-identify in other people. It is a way that we disconnect from people because we're no longer seeing the person, we're only seeing the label. We're only seeing the codependency. We're only seeing this person is toxic. We're not even noticing the healthy parts of the relationship anymore. A year ago, you were fine with this person, but now you learned this new word, and you're just like, I cannot even deal with them because they're so toxic. Well, last year, there's photos of you, like, having fun. So I know for us, it's intended to make us feel better, like I have a name for it. But it's also a way for us to be divisive. So pay attention to where the terminology is pulling you away from your relationships and not drawing you closer. The algorithms reward extremes. When I post things about, here are some things you can do to be better in your relationships, it doesn't take off very well. But if I say, here are 10 characteristics of a narcissist, fire. Because there's terminology that is just like clickbait. But if I say, hey, here's 5 ways for you to go inward, it doesn't go very far. So the extremes, it goes much further, and that's a lot of what we see online. It is some of the same stuff over and over. It doesn't mean that other stuff doesn't exist, but the things that we know, the list, the 10 ways to do whatever, those things tend to do much better. So pay attention to what you're seeing in your feed. The loudest thing that we see is not always the most accurate thing. And so when we are thinking that this might be a possibility, even talking to someone about it to see, talking to your therapist, talking through this with friends, when we think about a person's behavior, are we thinking about it entirely or in this one situation? How did you contribute to the interaction? As we are consuming content, it's very important for us to think critically. We are often seeing something and we're like, yep, that's it. We're not looking at the caption. There is no deeper dive. It's like this thing has been said, and so it is. Anyone can create content on social media. Children, adults, professionals. So it doesn't mean that it's verified. It doesn't mean that it's coming from a place of goodness. It just means that it's content. So one of the things we talked about was connection over perfection. People may not be perfect, but there may be some connective tissue in there, and sometimes we have to find it. Relationships can evolve and stretch and still be good, right? Like perhaps there was a time we spoke to someone every single day, and then we moved to once a month. That can still be a good relationship for us. Doesn't mean that there's a problem there. Always leave room for a relationship to have some gray area. It does not have to be perfect or toxic. There's a lot of room in the middle. Thank you.